All right, everyone. Welcome back to Real Estate Objection Handling. I'm Brett Matzer, and today's objection, we are going to be going over a very common objection, at least if you talk to a lot of people, is we have a family member who's an agent. So I'm going to be using conversational selling techniques. I'm going to break this down and walk you through the process of how I would break this down. Now, I go over a lot of different techniques in this. And today's objection is actually a daily objection for my real estate role-playing group because I believe that nobody ever gets better at anything without practice. And, excuse me, and you'll never perform at a level higher than what you practice. So if all you're doing is doing the training, that's good. But if you really want to take your skill set, if you really want to take your sales profession to the next level, you need to role play. So if you don't have a partner, go over to the realestateroleplaying.com. There's a monthly fee to it. You can role play every single day with a different partner for scripts, dialogues, and objection handling, scripts, objection handling, and the listing sequence. So head on over there, get signed up, have a practicing partner. And we do a ton of training. So guys, let's dive right into this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to go to this screen right here. And we have a family member who's an agent. So I am going to break this down with what I call an ultimate rebuttal formula. Oops, let's go back to this. Ultimate rebuttal formula. It's a 4-step process. And here's the thing with the ultimate rebuttal formula is that it's a technique. You see, you're not just going to come up with something magical. Everybody always asks me on what would you say to this? Or how would you say something to this? Like it's like there's some sort of magical movement that if somebody objects to you, that you're going to be able to just say something like a zing 'em, and then all of a sudden they're going to say, oh my gosh, where do I sign? That's not the case, right? Selling is all about communication. And if you're going to be in a conversation with somebody, the person who asks the questions will always control the conversation. So you'll notice that a lot of the things that I do are conversational based, which means they're question based. But this technique, we could do this objection tomorrow or the next day, and I will do it. The core structure is going to be the same. A lot of the words and a lot of the phrases that I use are going to be the same, but it's going to be different, right? They're not going to be 100% the same every time I do it. And that's what you need to do. You need to practice and practice and practice and practice until you just get used to the objection. You get used to the rebuttal structure so that you can just rebuttal it on site naturally, with confidence and with clarity. And what you'll find is that if you rebuttal an objection with confidence, clarity, then what you'll find is that most people won't ask you follow-up objections. They don't go that much deeper. And that's just the truth of it. So here's the thing. Acknowledge, approve, softener, ask. Okay, so you're going to acknowledge what they said. It's active listening. You're going to approve what they say. And a lot of what I do is I just group them in with other homeowners. You're going to put in a softener and then ask a question. And I always put in a softener because it lessens the blow for a direct question. You'll often find that there are people who just come off that you don't really care for them a whole lot. If in fact they just come at you with a hard question or a direct question, you got to soften the blow a little bit, right? You got to pull your punch a little bit. So let's go into this. First of all, the objection, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up onto, let's go ahead and put the banner up right here. Okay, so the objections down below, we have a family member who's an agent. Who doesn't? Or a friend or family. Okay, so first of all, we got to ask, is this a condition? Is this a condition? Look, you can't rebuttal a condition. Okay, now let's think about this. You have family members. Everyone has some sort of family members, at least a mom and a dad. You might have a brother, you might have a sibling, a cousin, or even a really, really good friend that's like a family member that's in real estate. And you know that I know that you know that if in fact you worked with somebody other than them, it's going to put strain onto the relationship and it's not worth it. That's a condition. Okay. There's nothing that you're going to say or do that's going to get in between of that relationship. Now, if it's a good friend, look, you can't fault the game because that's the goal. That's a lot of what the other training that I talk about building your sphere of influence, being that go-to person in real estate. So you can't hate the player on the other end who actually established this great relationship. But when it comes to blood, when it comes to family, look, you don't have a dog in that fight most of the time. So acknowledge that. But that doesn't mean that you don't give it a swing. That doesn't mean you give it a try, because we're going to actually talk about this, give it a try. Look, I have siblings. I have siblings that have gone and got their, I have a family member that has gone and gotten their real estate license. That I also will have some that are in the mortgages. I wouldn't work with them, but you know what? They wouldn't work with me because the relationship is way too close. So there's that aspect too. The relationship might be too close. They'll refer you out to all their friends, family, and coworkers. But you know, when it goes diving deep into their own financial business, a lot of people won't want to work with that. So you have to go into this situation acknowledging that so that you can actually rebuttal it. So is this a condition? And you don't know that. You don't know that if someone just came up and say, look, I have a family member who's an agent. Okay. First thing on your mind should be, okay, is this a condition? And you need to ask some questions. So let's go through the process. First, you're going to acknowledge it. Look, I totally understand that you have a family member in the business. I totally get that you have a family member in the business. You know, I can appreciate that you have a family member in the business. Okay. Now you're going to make them a right. You're going to group them in. And you know what? In my experience, it seems like everybody has either a friend or a family or a relative or a family member who's in real estate. Now, look what I just did there. See, the objection was I have a family member who's in the business. I modified it ever so slightly. And I said, look, in my experience, everyone seems to either have a friend or a relative in the business. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to group the family with the friend. Now, that friend might be a really, really good friend, but you know, there's that saying that blood is thicker than water. And so that friend isn't going to typically have a tighter relationship than family. So really what I want to do is I want to group the family member in with the friend relationship to change the seriousness of the relationship, so to speak. So I want to group it into being a friend. Remember, if this is a condition, none of this will work, but this is giving a swing at it because you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. The second thing the third is we're going to put in a softener. You know, however, if you don't mind me asking, that's really my go-to softener. However, if you don't mind me asking, hey, while I have you on the phone, hey, because the sky is blue, you know, it doesn't really matter a whole lot of what that softener is. Hey, I got bad news. Hey, I got some good news. So you just need to make sure that you're pre-emphasizing the next question or the next statement, which is going to be a question. So in this case, however, if you don't mind me asking, I find that, and guys, if you've watched my training, if you've watched some of the trainings that I've done in the past, and if you haven't, go to my YouTube channel. They're all there. My go-to when it talks to homeowners is that there are three common denominators when it comes to selling a home. They want to sell their home for the most money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Okay, so I'm going to go to that. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that the way that I rebuttal a lot of things are going to come off very similar because I have some go-to statements that I initially work with. But the way that I come about them, the way that I merge them into a conversation might be in a different way. So that's what I mean, that, you know, they're going to be the same, but they're going to be a little bit different. So in this, when you're asking the question, I find that most homeowners have three things in common. They want to sell their home for the most money in the quickest amount of time and for the most money or the least amount of hassle. Is that true for you as well? Is that true for you as well? you've heard me say this before. Rarely, unless it's a for sale by owner, are you going to have somebody say the exact opposite, that they're looking to sell their home in the longest amount of time for the least amount of money with the most amount of hassle. By definition, that's a for sale by owner, but rarely are you going to have somebody come out and say, no, that's not the case. Everybody wants to sell it for the most money in the quickest amount of time with least amount of hassle. It's human nature. So you just accept that and you vocalize it and you map them into the wants and the goals of other homeowners and see if it's true for them as well, because now we're teeing things up. So we're going to ask another question. Okay, so if there was a way, key term, if there was a way that I could sell your home faster for more money, and then look at this statement, and without the awkward hassle from working with a tight friend or relative. See how I changed that ever so slightly? It's awkward sometimes working, especially in real estate, because of finances, and typically nobody wants your close friend or your family member really knowing their business. So you want to poke that bear and you want to say, look, and really what you're doing is you're assuming that it's going to be an awkward hassle, but that's going to stir up an emotion that the other party wasn't thinking about. They think about it, but probably because of, having that conversation. Now, they might have a relationship that's so tight that they just share everything. And in case you're not going to get an appointment. But I think that's probably the minority, not the majority. Okay, so if there was a way that I could sell your home for more money in a faster time frame and without the awkward hassle from working with a friend or relative, is that something you'd at least consider and look at? That was a very soft closing. Not intrusive, okay? Not a driver, not coming off as a salesperson, like just going at it like aggressive. Well, why do you want to do that? How long's your friend or family been in real estate? How many homes have they sold? Have they done so as much business as I have? Right? Really kind of puffing out your chest. No, don't do that. Accept the fact that whenever you have a friend or a family member in anything, that look, that might be a condition. Just accept that, but go for a swing for it. Okay, let's go back over this. So if there was a way that you could sell your home for more money in a faster time frame and without the awkward hassle from working with a friend or relative, is that something that you'd at least consider and look at? Well, what do you mean? Well, what do you mean? What do I mean? Is that something that if there was a way that you could do that, would you at least consider it and look at? Okay, don't just say, would you look at it? You have to actually say, consider it. You're not in this business to waste a whole lot of time, effort, and resources. You're in this business you're pre-qualifying them. Look, if there is no way that they're going to choose someone else over their family member or their close friend, there's no point for you to go on that listing appointment. Come on, really? There's nothing worse than not having an appointment than going off on appointments that aren't going to, there's 100% chance that there's no way you're going to get that appointment unless you're doing it for practice. It's a whole different story. So, but make sure that you say, is that something you'd at least consider and look at? And then they're going to pause and they're going to say, no, my brother, he'd kill me. He'd disown me. That's a condition. Or they're going to say, well, yeah, I mean, if you can get us more money and sell it faster, and if I didn't really have to deal with that awkward hassle that you talked about, yeah, I would at least take a look at what you're doing and I'd at least consider it. Okay, so this is where you come down with the closing statement of, okay, well, look, what I'd like to do is see if you would be willing to meet with me for 25 minutes this week so I can share with you my 22-point plan that's literally helped me and my company sell hundreds of homes in your area. Would you have some time this week to do that? Yeah, I might have some time this week. Terrific. Okay, what works better for you, in the morning or in the evenings? Well, evenings, afternoon is always going to work better for you. Fantastic. Look, I'm looking at my calendar here. I can either do Tuesday at 3:30, but I could also do maybe Wednesday at 1:30. Do either of those times work for you? Yeah, the 130 works for me. Guys, I call this turning up the water or turning up the heat, right? Warming up the water. Boy, I really messed up that statement. Warming up the water, right? You're not going from, yeah, I might consider and look at, great, when would be good to meet? Let's do Tuesday at 3:30, or would Thursday at 1 o'clock be better? I'm not going to go hard like that, right? Nobody talks like that in a normal day-to-day life. And when you start changing your language pattern to be different than what people are used to communicating in, the salesy alarms go off. Some people will disagree with me on that. And you know what? And that's on them. That's fine. But with this, it's all about warming the water. Okay. You break it down to, would you consider and look at it? Yes. Terrific. Would you be willing to spend some time with me this week for me to show you what I do? Yes. Awesome. I'm looking at my calendar. What's typically better for you? Mornings or afternoons or evenings? Afternoons. Fantastic. I can do Tuesday at maybe 1 o'clock or even Wednesday at 3:30. Do either of those times work for you? So really, it's a process of elimination. But you're having a conversation that's going in both directions. Okay, so before we close this up, let's sum this thing up. Let's go back to the beginning. We have a family member in the business. Acknowledge, look, I totally understand that you have a family member in the business. And in my experience, it seems everyone seems to have a friend or relative in the business. However, if you don't mind me asking, I find that homeowners have three common denominators, three goals in common. They want to sell their home in the quickest amount of time for the most money with the least amount of hassle. Is that true for you as well? Well, yes, Brett, that is true for me as well. Okay, so if there was a way that you could sell your home for more money in a faster time frame and without having the awkward hassle from working with a friend or relative, is that something that you would at least consider and take a look at? Well, yeah, I'd at least consider and take a look at it. Fantastic, right? And then you go into the closing statement, the closing warming the water statement. Okay. All right, guys. So that's all that I have for on this week. Now, again, if you need a role play partner and you don't have one, consistency, right? You can't role play once a month and think that you're going to get better. It's like going to the gym. It's like wanting to lose 10 pounds and going to the gym once in a year. You're not going to get better. You're not going to get better by watching somebody give you dieting and exercising advice. You're going to have to implement that. This situation is just like that situation. See that? That was NLP, guys. So if you need a role play partner, you might not. You might have a great role play partner, but if you do, go over to realestateroleplaying.com. We have a great program and set, a lot of training, a lot of assistance, a lot of resources to help you increase your skill set. And if you're catching this on the replay, please, hit that like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel so that you can get more of this awesome training that we do on the daily and on the weekly. So with that said, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for those that are watching this. Get out there, have some conversations, set some appointments, take some listings, close some deals. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.